covering it. It's a summit that's going to take place for the next 4 days.
Thank you, America First! Thank you, Stop the Steal!
With my sister Elizabeth Etzinson, we are at the turning point. Shlama, shalom, and salam to one and all. How's everybody doing? Thank you so much for tuning in to the Mona K Show. I'm your host, Mona K. Oshana. Thank you once again for tuning in. For those of you that are coming back over and over again as you follow our episodes and you have been viewers and listeners to this program, because this program started out with being on the radio for 3 years, and then we transitioned into the digital age, and we went into the digital media production. And of course, this production is being brought to you as usual by the very talented Mr. Fred Duman and, of course, Cinnamon Production. Thank you so much for being with us. We'd like to welcome one and all. And those three words that I used in the beginning, for those of you that are here for the first time, Shlama, Shalom, and Salam. Those are the three Semitic words meaning peace, actually. One is in Assyrian, one is in Hebrew, and one is in Arabic. So this is how I'd like to greet everybody today, and hopefully that you are having a wonderful day today. We have a jam-packed program for you today, but unfortunately today we are going to start with an update with some very sad news. If you remember a few weeks ago, we shared with you as you can see, that's the obituary notice of this young lady, 36 years old, Annette Ablachet, who was fighting cancer. She was battling cancer, and she had reached the end of her, I don't want to say her treatment, but she was not able to take the treatments, the chemotherapy treatments that she was being given through the hospital, and she was at the point of 85 pounds. And so they were looking at alternative medicine, and they found a doctor that was going to be able to give her alternative treatments. And so she traveled to Texas, and she was there about a month ago, if I recall. And she was apparently, as you can see, she did pass away, so the treatment did not work. I'm not sure if the treatment got to her, or she got to the treatment a little too late, or if just it didn't work whatsoever. There was a GoFundMe that I know that they raised over $110,000 because her insurance was not going to cover the alternative medicine procedure or treatment. And so the family was thanking everybody for their support, for their donations. However, their daughter did, in fact, pass away. And Fred, if we can put that booklet right back on, as you can see, there is going to be a funeral at St. Mary's Assyrian Church of the East in Tarzana, California, followed by burial service, where she's going to be buried there directly after the celebration of life, really what we call it, Tuesday, March 14th at 11:30 a.m. We are so sorry. We want to extend our greatest condolences, our deepest condolences to the family, to the Ablachat family. I know that they were saying that in lieu of flowers, she has asked that people donate the money to orphanages of your choice. And so she had a pure heart. She had a great heart. She was a wonderful human being that we lost. And I just wanted to update everybody, our followers, our viewers, about Annette Ablachat, who went home to be with the Lord. And her funeral is this coming 14th, which is a Tuesday, this coming the next week. So thank you so much for your support and your donations. By the way, I know many of you were praying for her as well. We have another sad obituary actually today. We heard about a very dear mother that I was very very close to. Um, Very sad to hear of a mother that traveled from Iraq to visit her daughter here from Iraq. Her name is very sad, Shurez. Suad Shurez, who passed away yesterday, last night. She was 93 years old. I want to let you know that she came to America as a result of the ISIS invasion of Mosul. She was born in Mosul. And as a result, she came to visit her daughter here, Lubna, that I have. She's like a sister to me. She's like family to me. And I was so sad to hear that. And when she came here from Erbil in 2006, she was there, who lived in, and I'm going to read a little bit of what the family wrote, not to confuse the issue. In 2006, she left her home along with her son and his family and went to Erbil, north of Iraq, with only their clothes on their back. That same day, they tried to kill her son while driving, and the bullet passed by his face. It actually just almost grazed him as he came close to losing his eye. And the reason why we're going back to 2006 is because, as you recall, Saddam Hussein was overthrown in 2003, and so people from Baghdad and the central area of Iraq started to scatter and started to leave because Al Qaeda had actually infiltrated Iraq at that point, coming in from Syria. And so people at that point, Christians in particular, were being knocked. They were, the Qaeda infiltrators or the terrorist groups were coming to knock on their doors to take over their homes, to take over their lives, to give them that. And as many of you have had heard in the news, they were giving them the choices of either leaving, converting, or paying the jizya. So this is one of those times where in 2005 it got so bad for a lot of the Christians there. They started moving to the north, and this is where we find our dear mother Suad, Mama Suad, and her son, her only son, by the way. She has a daughter and a son. Her daughter's here in America. Her son remained in Iraq, and she remained with him. They moved to Erbil, which is north of Iraq, and as you can see, that they almost claimed the life of her son. But I can tell you that in 2014, she came to visit her daughter here, and when she came here, she medically could not become well enough to travel back to Iraq, and so they tried to file for asylum for her to be able to stay here with her daughter so that she could actually take care of her because her son was not able to. And besides, the country was in such chaos, there was no way to take care of himself. And there she is, the beautiful face of Saad. And so they decided that if she could file for asylum, stay here. Now, after 3 years of trying with different methods, of course, going through the immigration office, going through many lawyers, paying a lot of money to try to get her documentations worked out, her asylum case moving forward, they got stuck. It was stuck, and it got to a point where the immigration office actually, for some reason or another, denied her case. Denied her case so that they were going to make this 89 years old or 90 years old. This is about 3 years ago. 90-year-old woman go back to Mosul, which she was born. And as many of you know, after ISIS invaded Mosul, they pretty much destroyed everything. And so this precious mother was not able to go back. There was no way to go back because her son was struggling as it was, trying to get out of the country. So there was no way that she could go back. And so this is where they reached out to me and said, is there anything that can be done? And of course, as an advocate for my community, my Christian, my Assyrian, my Middle Eastern community, I extended a helping hand, sought any which way that I can to be able to help this mother that was at risk of being sent back to Iraq, who she had no one there because her son was on the run and everybody else was on the run. And that's where I reached out. And I want to be able to mention Congresswoman Debbie Lesko at this point, because that is the office that I reached out to, because we had a relationship that we were working with Congresswoman Debbie Lesko, and I knew her back when she was running for Congress. I had interviewed her on my radio program, and through our activism, we had actually been able to communicate with Congresswoman Debbie Lesko. And thank God for her immigration department, who looked into the case. And of course, the rest is history, because of the fact that through the office of Congresswoman Debbie Lesko, this precious mother was able to remain in America. Her asylum case was reopened, and it was in fact approved after the fact that we explained the culture, we explained the danger that she would be in. Of course, if she went back, being a woman of this age, to be able to go back, even though the immigration office, not knowing what was going on in Iraq, thinking that ISIS was defeated and that it was okay for this woman to go back, when in fact it wasn't okay. She would have suffered a much worse situation than she was there to begin with. So we want to the family wants to thank the office of Congresswoman Debbie Lesko. Mama Suad wanted to come and visit Congresswoman Debbie Lesko, but it has not been able. She was not able to have done that due to Congresswoman Debbie Lesko's schedule, and of course Mama Suad's health conditions. Even though Mama Suad didn't have much left, or didn't have much of her life left, but the family wants to let Congresswoman Debbie Lesko, because of her advocacy, because of her involvement in this situation. Mama Suad was able to stay here and live out the last 3 years of her life with her family, with her grandkids, and she was able to live peacefully and with honor and dignity. And as you can see, now that she's passed away, she's going to be buried in that honor, being celebrated in the churches. And don't forget, in Mosul, most of the churches were in fact destroyed. And had she gone back and she had perished, there was no one to take care of her or to make sure that she would be buried. And I'm sure there would be compassionate people that were there, but none more like her own family. Of course, her daughter that lives here, Lubna, and her son-in-law, Muhannad, and of course her grandkids. And I don't want to go into all of the names, but nevertheless, the family just wants to do this, just wants to pay tribute and to appreciate what Congresswoman Debbie Lesko did for this mother. And these are the kind of stories that, when we say on the program, we want to tell these stories of refugees and their struggle and their triumph, and of course their survival. These are the kind of stories that we want to bring to your attention, to know that there are so many people looking to America. And if it wasn't for the American dream and the American advocacy and the American open arms of the immigration system that would take in individuals and mothers and fathers and struggling and oppressed people like Mama Suad, where would we go? And as we've often said, if America ceased to exist, where would we run to? Where would refugees like Mama Suad and the rest of us that have immigrated here to America go to? So a greatest appreciation to the office of Congresswoman Debbie Lesko, appreciation to the great country of America. Rest in peace, Mama Suad, and to the family, we extend our deepest condolences. And I know that her funeral is going to be this coming Monday, and I'm going to be attending it. And it is so great to know that Mama Suad lived out the rest of the remaining of her life in peace, in harmony, in freedom, and at this point being buried by her own family in dignity, having gained her human rights here in America. So thank you once again, Congresswoman Debbie Lesko. And, thank you all for always supporting and listening to these stories. And so this is why the Mona K Show actually was launched, because we don't hear many stories like this. Not only do we hear stories, breaking news, as they say, that this is what happened in the Middle East, and this is the ISIS came in and banished so many Christians from Mosul. And of course, there were many other people that were there. And I speak a lot largely about the community, my community, because for the most part, my community, known as the Assyrians, who are completely Christian, have been abandoned. Really, they have no political voice, they have no financial strength, they have no backing. And if not to speak about them ourselves here, if we don't help ourselves and if we don't raise our voices, we really don't have much representation in the sense of other than our faith and our church, of course. And this is why we stay close and we hover around our churches, because our churches have become the state within a country that has, in fact, we are a stateless nation, but our church and our faith keeps us together. And this is why we are so, we recite the Bible so much so, and we love America in that respect, that we are able to practice our faith where we come from, where the oppressive countries that we come from might make you think that they are democratic countries, but in fact they're not. They are actually oppressive countries. And if there's a conflict in a country, and for those that are listening, please understand, any conflict that happens anywhere that there are Assyrians, Christians, Armenians, any minority groups, Yazidi groups, any minorities like that, they are the first that fall between the cracks, because they are always the easiest targets to many of these conflicts that become the greatest victims. And this is why you see very few Christians or very few minority groups remaining in Iraq, even though Iraq right now is trying to establish itself after 15, 16, 17 years after the toppling of Saddam Hussein. But here you have many more atrocious situations going on, and it's still, like I had written in the title of my book, Look Beyond the Fire. It is still on fire. Iraq is still on fire, and many controversies still going on. The government has not still organized itself after how many billions of dollars, not only from America, but the Allied forces that went into Iraq to try to organize it. But we have influences coming in from all over the world, making Iraq into the chaotic situation, unable to resolve the chaos. And of course, just like Iran right now is having another one of their revolutions or protests, Iraq went through many of those as well. And of course, to no good results, because the humanity has suffered. All of humanity in Iraq is suffering, as they are in Iran and other countries. So it is truly sad to see the state of the ancestral homeland that we left behind. This is why we're able to launch programs like this and raise our voices, because if we don't raise our voices on behalf of those that are still left behind and struggling, no one will, believe me, because the mainstream media, or any kind of media really, with everything that's going on, the world really is on fire. We used to think that the Middle East was on fire, but right now what we're seeing around us, everywhere you see, there are demonstrations and there are chaos, there are revolutions, and there are misunderstandings and great conflict going on everywhere. And so this is why, again, we as Christians that have escaped these oppressive countries, we hold fast onto our faith, when we understand these struggles are not coming from a particular religion. It's not coming from a particular group of people. It is basically a fight between good and evil. And so there are good evil in every religion, and there are bad people, of course, in every religion. And this is why in America we're seeing the melting pot of the world. We're seeing so many people from all over the world coming here to establish themselves once again, to start from the ground up, just like the family of Suad, Mama Suad and her family, where she escaped with the clothes on her back, as many refugees did, coming to America, starting from ground zero, starting from the ground, and working their way up, knowing that we are secure in America, knowing that no one will come knocking on our door to take our homes or to take our rights or to banish us from our homeland. And this is why we need, as immigrants, and I said this last week as well, this is why as refugees, as immigrants, I think America deserves to be to be fought over. I think America deserves that we fight for America because we have nowhere else to run. And immigrants, I think, will come into the surface right now, being the fighters for America, because it was immigrants that escaped the oppression of tyranny. When our founders wrote the Constitution, it was their escape from tyranny and all of the other oppression that they came to America to establish freedom of expression, freedom of human expression, freedom to be human again, freedom to have the right to reach our highest potential. And this is why America is worth fighting for. It is worth fighting for. And I think immigrants have to take a more important role and a vital role in the salvation or in saving America and driving it back to the basic principles of our founders. And I often say we should not only study the Constitution, but study how the founders fought. We should study the fight that went into the birthing of the Constitution of the United States of America. So the fight to fight for America is back again. And this is why the founders were afraid that we might lose our republic if we can keep it. They said we will have a republic if we can keep it. And why they said that was because of the fact that they knew that there would be infiltrators, that would be the enemy of all human beings coming to steal, kill, and destroy. And they would be coming to take away our freedom. Because those of us that escaped oppressive governments, do you think the country or the people that oppressed us back home are happy seeing that we're able to open our mouth today as a Middle Eastern woman that's able to speak to you today with the kind of boldness that I am speaking today, speaking about those things that we've left behind? Do you think the enemy is happy with what they're hearing right now? Of course not, because we are exposing them. And that's why when I say my community, the Assyrian community, was left abandoned and we were silenced and we suffered in obscurity. Why? Because of the fact that we could not speak under the regime of Saddam Hussein or those regimes before him and the government that came after it. Why? Because they did not want to be exposed. And so this is why you see many immigrants running to America to come into and be part of that beautiful institution of we the people. They want to become part of that melting pot, to become we the people of that a beautiful American culture, to say we are part of that we the people. But we have to also make sure that we understand as Americans, there are those that know, the enemy knows that on the battlefield, America cannot be defeated. On the battlefield, we have technology, we have state-of-the-art weapons that we can use. They know that America cannot. That's why everyone in the world is seeking America's alliance, seeking America's backing, seeking America to fight for them and to stand with them, because they know that on the battlefield, America is the greatest superpower that cannot be defeated. So how do they defeat America? I ask you, how do they defeat America? They infiltrate. How do they infiltrate America? By becoming one of the we the people, but not really working for the we the people. They are taking their orders or their marching orders from a faraway land that is beyond our borders. So they come in through the same system, the same immigration system that I and many, like Mama Suad and many people that came to this country and sought asylum and came here and got and waited through used the immigration process as it is written on the books and came to America legally in most cases. As I am talking to you today, my entire family and I came to this country legally. My mother risked her life, and I often speak about my mother being my Lady Liberty. Why? Because she risked her life with 8 children, and of course, dragging my father, kicking and screaming. He didn't want to leave the country. And what woman can do that back when my mother was, as a Middle Eastern woman, could not or should not, and it was not accepted culturally to stand against her husband, but she did it anyways and got us all out of the country, risking her life, standing against the regime, going from city to city, state to state, until we left Iraq. And that is how we got here. And so that same process, that same immigration system, there are the enemies of America that want to destroy the America, but they're not able to from the outside. So what are they doing? Using the immigration system. This is why we keep saying secure the border, because through that border, there are people that are coming through that have ill in their heart for America, that want to destroy America, and that come into America and get their legality or get their asylum documentations without being vetted, and America being the compassionate country. No other country is as compassionate as America is. And so through that compassion, they come into, like I did, like Mama Suad and her family did, seeking asylum or seeking refuge in America. And what do? They don't mean well in America. They never really melt, and they don't assimilate. What do? They take on the role of an American, and as an American, they destroy America from within by resisting, by standing against, by forming coalitions that stand against. Because what did they gain? They gained everything that oppressive regimes have instilled on their members like us. When we didn't have a voice, we have a voice. Well, they use their voice to divide the country rather than unite. These are the United States of America, and we are here to live out our dream, but they create chaos. That's what's happening. It's infiltration and manipulation. That is a subject that we are going to deeply dive into one of these days when we can get our sister back, Miss Dalia Al Aqidi, a renowned journalist, award-winning journalist who's Iraqi born, and she writes. She's a journalist, and if, I hope to get her back and reschedule the scheduled. We had to cancel her appearance on our program, but hopefully and with God's will, we're going to reschedule, and we're going to talk about specifically how the enemy is infiltrating and manipulating our system of government, because they are becoming one of us. But as one of us, they are not enjoying freedom. They want to create chaos, and this is why we have to be careful, and we have to secure our border, and we have to, in fact, vet who's coming in. And this is not about stopping any type of religious, anyone with a religious background or any ethnicity or any color or any creed. This is about securing the borders. If America will remain the refuge to those that are being oppressed in other lands, why would we allow the criminals to follow suit or follow victims those victims that are coming here to survive? As you can see yourselves, in the who's talking to you today is a survivor of such oppression and persecution from our ancestral homeland. How would we feel secure? How would we feel good about ourselves when we know the perpetrators of those crimes are following through that path, coming through the immigration system to follow us and, of course, wreak havoc in America? So this is why it's very important that we continue to have our guards up, as compassionate as in America can be, but nevertheless, we need to be careful. There are people that love America, but there are people that hate America, and we know this. We know this. We're being called by Iran what? The biggest devil, the biggest evil on the planet. And so they will never rest. They will never stand down nor rest, nor give up their plan of action to destroy the great evil of the world, which is America, to them in their eyes. And so this is why we thank God for America. Now, we want to talk about the fact that it's we need to open our eyes, we need to open our ears, and we need to fight as Americans, and we need to put our party affiliation and our religion and our creed and our gender and our color and our whatever it is that separates us to the side. Do you know why? Because there is an enemy that is coming to steal, kill, and destroy us. So that I don't care if you're a Democrat or if you're a Republican, if you're Christian, if you're Muslim, if you're Buddhist, if you're Hindu, or whatever kind of religion you are. Today, as Americans, we must come together and we must unite to fight for America. Because when the world right now, there is a great lie being perpetrated, a lie that is confusing and throwing chaos and placing us in confusion to think that we are standing on the right side. But we need to be very careful. When the world is choosing to believe a lie over the truth, we are very much in trouble. This is not to start preaching. And then again, I know that I'm starting the monologue with a word of God, but as a Christian, I can't help myself but to fall back on the word of God. This is not to start preaching by all means, but as Christians, my Bible teaches me that our God is not a God of confusion. Our God will not throw us into what should we do, left or right. Our God is a very organized God. When there is confusion, there is no God. There is no sense of organization. And when there is no God, and when we reject God, or when we say there is no God, we ourselves are placing ourselves in bondage, and we are, in fact, placing ourselves in a place called hell. Now, for those people that don't believe in hell, just look around you. With those people that are, I can tell you, and I often say this, when people ask me, where were you born, or where, because they sense, they hear a dialect, and I've tried to kind of beat my dialect to death because I don't, and for the longest time, I didn't want to tell people that I was not born in America, or I avoided that question. Not that I lied about it, but I avoided that question. And I often say that I was reborn in Chicago. But here's the fact. I was I always say that I was born in paradise. Of course, as many of you know, paradise was in the Middle East and paradise was actually in current day Iraq. I say I was born in paradise and I stop there. And they look at me and they go, "You're born in paradise?" I say, "Yeah," because two of the rivers that were, two of the four rivers that are still remaining that was in paradise were the Tigers and the Euphrates. And of course, the Pishon and the Gihon were taking up when God took up paradise after Adam and Eve sinned. But two of the two rivers, it's called the land between the two rivers. That's the location of where the biblical paradise was. But I often continue to say I was born in paradise, but I left hell. Why? Because current day Iraq, unfortunately to say, I love it. And my heart is still in Iraq, my birth country, my ancestral homeland, Mesopotamia, that not only was in Iraq, but it was in Turkey and Iran and part of Syria. And so my heart is still there in the sense that that's where the biblical Assyrians that date back to over 7,000 years. Um, that's where they were from. It's only in the last hundred years that the Assyrians started to um, immigrate to other countries because they can no longer keep up holding back the enemy that was coming to kill them, to steal, to kill and steal and destroy. So, having dwindled to the numbers that we have, we started immigrating to other countries. And once again, we thank God for America. And this is why we say that we want to understand that just because we think America is our paradise, it's not going to stop it from becoming hell. Why? Because if we don't vigilantly work as we the people to keep our eye on our democracy, on our democratic republic, and I know a lot of people, when I say on our democracy, they say, but we don't have a democracy, we have a republic. It was a our founders, yes, did in fact establish a democratic republic. If we do not vigilantly work to keep our republic, we will in fact lose it. And so it is very important that we go on to work hard and remember that we the people is not just a statement or the first three words of the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. We the people is a in fact a call for action that we need to remain. Now we want to move on to speak about other subjects that we have. I know that we might not get all of the things that we wanted to talk to about today I don't know if we're going to get it all on the program. We usually go on about an hour, maybe an hour and a half, but we'll see if we can get as much as we can. Now, as many of you know, yesterday was International Women's Day. So I'd like to wish happy Women's Day to all of the mothers, the sisters, the nieces, the daughters, the cousins, any woman that's on earth. Even if you're of course, this is not Mother's Day, this is Women's Day. And of course, if you are a woman, please, I honor you, I respect you, I revere you, because woman has in fact become a someone to look up to as mothers, as teachers, as any career, any group, any industry that she is in, anywhere she goes, she improves, she builds. A mother is a birther, mother or a woman is a birther, is a creator, is fantastic in whatever she does. She's an organizer. But there is a something that actually is breaking my heart today. That something that happened yesterday during that day that kind of just threw a wrench. It was a political wrench that was thrown by President Biden and his administration on this wonderful day that women around the world can be recognized for their uniqueness, to rise up despite the oblivious and obliviousness of some of the women that are not being recognized. Some people are not even seen in many cultures. In many cases, there are obvious dispositions that uh, women are being held back. Women are not being considered. Do you know that in some cultures, women and dogs are equated? There are certain cultures that do not allow women to speak. So to recognize a woman that has fought those kinds of oppressions, those kinds of struggles, this is that day for that woman to be recognized for those kinds of things. International Women's Day, the political wrench that was thrown in our faces. Who does the White House give one of these awards to yesterday? That the one of these awards that was given to by the uh, First Lady Dr. Jill Biden yesterday at the White House while she was doing the awards show um, at the White House. One of the women that she gave it to was a transgender, or is a transgender woman from Argentina. So I'd like for us to watch this clip for a few minutes, and then we will come back and we will discuss it a little more.
On behalf of Dr. Biden and Secretary Blinken, I'm honored to present awards to the following women. In Mongolia, Brigadier General Bolar Gonbold is the first female staff officer in her country to be assigned to United Nations peacekeeping operation. And the first female general to serve in the Mongolian Armed Forces. Brigadier Ganbold has served in peacekeeping missions around the world, and she's advocated for gender equality in peacekeeping forces and her country's military so that women and girls can be properly protected during and after conflicts. In Costa Rica, Doris Rios has dedicated her life to fighting for Indigenous women's rights to life and dignity and for the reclamation of Indigenous lands. In the face of threats of violence and attacks against her and her family, she has created a seat at the table for Indigenous women to make the world more peaceful and just. In Argentina, Alba Ruada is a transgender woman who was kicked out of classrooms, barred for sitting for exams, refused job opportunities, subjected to violence, and rejected by her family. But in the face of these challenges, she worked to end violence and discrimination against the LGBTQI+ community in Argentina. After women were barred from schools in Afghanistan, Zakira Hakmet secretly finished high school and won a scholarship to study in Turkey, eventually becoming a doctor. After seeing the difficulty refugees face, she founded the Afghan Refugee Solidarity Association to advocate for the rights of all refugees and women. It is my privilege and honor to honor each of you for your important contributions to human rights and for making the world a more peaceful place. Congratulations, and thank you for your courage.
Now, as you can just see, that there was a slew of women, and there was more right before that. I just wanted to kind of share that one clip with everyone so that you can see what I'm referring to. And so, just for as a disclosure, I have no problem with how people want to live their life. LGBTQ LGBTQ community or otherwise. I know that everyone in this world has struggles. Everyone has persecutions. Everyone is oppressed one way or another. I have absolutely no problem with the administration, or any administration or any country recognizing those struggles within that community. If it's gays, lesbians, or if it's women, men, if it's color, if it's creed, if it's against, as someone that was persecuted for our faith, I understand that completely. But here's my problem with this. And here's a picture, and please leave this picture up, Fred, if you don't mind. As you can see, Rueda is from Argentina, special envoy for sexual orientation and gender identity in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Rueda is responsible for this country's adoption as the Transgender Labor Quota Act, which received 1% of public sector jobs in Argentina for transgender people. And that is a great accomplishment, to tell you the truth. That is wonderful, a wonderful accomplishment for doing that. And I have no problem whatsoever with that accomplishment. And I want to congratulate Rueda. My problem is not that at all. But here's what my problem is, and we can go to me again, Fred. And this is the biggest, to me, and I'm sure many women feel that way, of me being from the Middle Eastern culture. This is the biggest attack and dagger in the backs of all of us mothers, sisters, daughters, biological women that have had to overcome historical struggles to get to where we are today. Where is the world headed to when I must not be proud of being born a woman, being a biological woman, or having to explain that I am not a biological, no, if I'm having to explain if I am a biological woman or a natural woman, or not even mention that. So that if I mention that I'm a biological woman, it's racism, it's xenophobic, it's discriminative. And if I don't mention, or I mention I'm a natural woman, or a transgender, I don't understand. I don't know how to speak anymore. I don't know how to speak anymore, because I thought I traveled as a woman that would have been otherwise not be able to have a voice in the country I traveled from, as a lot of women from Afghanistan, from Iran. That look at all that's going on in Iran today. Look at this new protest, this new revolution that was as a result of a woman taking off her hijab. She was killed. Look how many people died as a result of that. Okay, and here now I am being censored. I am being told what to say and what not to say. I thought I finally came to America and got this burden of what to say and what's not to say off my back. And here I am today being told that you cannot speak about biology or natural, or being a natural woman. And that is the wrench, the political wrench that I want to speak to you about. This hits me hard, as you know. I speak a great deal from my personal experiences. I'm a very strong woman, and my background is one of struggle, oppression, and persecution. I refer to my mother many times, as I just mentioned a few minutes ago, as my Lady Liberty. She gave me life and later risked her life to give me freedom. Um, this display of giving this award, this is not being politically correct, or being, or me being racist, because I'm not accepting it. This is one of the worst insults to women that have worked hard, fought battles, climbing over many gender conflicts to attain many gains. It is shameful for a man who identifies as a woman to take a national platform on our behalf, or to speak of a woman's struggle. He doesn't represent us. He doesn't represent me, at least, even when both men and women were both oppressed. However, man has been arbitrarily dominating women, treating them as inferior through manipulation, through their domination through culture and through religion. So a woman, and I'm going to say it, a natural woman, a biological woman has to be able to speak up to say the struggles that we faced are different than a transgender woman or man that transitioned, and that is their choice to transition. It is a difficult, it is a different struggle. Now, if you want to have a category for transgenders and how they have contributed to tolerance, to how they are educating the community to accept transgenderism, that is fine with me. Women are equated to dogs in some cultures. They are fighting to be recognized as human beings in some cases. Look at the latest revolution in Iraq when one woman or Iran, not just Iraq, but also Iran. Look, I keep repeating Iran and Iraq because of everything that's going on. The revolutions and the protests that were happening was as a result not only of by women, but by all of the people altogether. Today we have a hundreds of people that were killed, both men and women fighting for human rights. There is a human part of, there's a human element actually in this International Women's Day inclusion of a transgender that is hitting hard to those of us that understand something that is not really natural. This is not natural. These are some women that were featured. Let me go over some of the women that was featured. So the first general woman in Mongolia. Do you know that in Mongolia what it took for a woman to get to where she is? And I'm so proud of her. Again, I am proud of the transgender woman whose name is Rueda. I'm proud of her too. And if she wants to be called a woman, that's fine. But I mean, she should not have been sitting next to a general woman that has gone through so many struggles, being a woman who was rejected, who was ostracized probably, who fought, who was demeaned, who God only knows what she has gone through. Okay. And of course, when they called Elba Barada, Rueda Barada, and they called her, and here's what they said, and I'm reading. Transgender woman who was kicked out of class, barred from sitting in exams, refused job opportunities, subjected to violence, rejected by her family. And I don't discount any of that oppression. I don't discount it by any means, because oppression is oppression however you want to do it. But you cannot equate it to someone. Who did they call? Do you realize who they called right after Rueda? Who did they call? They called a woman from Afghanistan. They called a woman from Afghanistan who secretly finished high school, becoming a doctor, and establishing a nonprofit organization for refugees so that she could help others that were able to accomplish what she almost risked her life doing. Now, it is a different categories, ladies and gentlemen. We cannot allow politics throw down our throats something that they will keep telling us that this is about being racist. This is not about a woman's right to exist. That is the difference. Rueda or any transgender woman or any transgender man. This is not for us to discriminate against you, but this is not about a man's right or a woman's right to exist. This is a transgender right to exist. Now that is a different category, and we should build, and you should fight for it, a different category. You know why? Because at that point, you will not have the resistance. If anything, I think you're going to have a lot of people on your side, and you'll have a lot of partnership, and you'll have a lot more people agreeing with you and helping you and siding with you. And look at this. I'm actually giving you a plan of action to say, rather than go take over somebody else's fight, create your own. Don't fight someone. Don't come and join a fight that was not designed by women, but were forced on women in this case to fight, like me, like my sisters, my fellow sisters and brothers my sisters in Africa, in Iran, in Iraq, in Egypt, in most Middle Eastern countries or oppressive countries, in China, in all of oppressive countries where woman is not even considered, and they don't even want to hear her voice. This is about a man's right. This is a man's right to change his gender to one that he will never be able to change into. This is not about this is not about being racist. This is not about a woman's existence. This is about you being a man, and you want to have the right to change your gender and to be accepted. Um, but you need to understand your gender, you being a man, becoming a woman will never change the fact that you will always have the biology and the organs of a man. You'll never be you'll never change to that. So that is why it's a rather than you fighting about, no, I am a woman, no, I am a, need to start fighting for a category so that you can be placed in society somewhere where um, you can fight for those rights. You need to fight to be recognized as that. This is not being politically correct, but a way for the left leaning politics or politicians to shove down our throats an agenda of transgenderism to appear to fight for equal rights. This is all it is. Here you have, they are stuffing a transgender woman into a woman's right to exist or woman's accomplishments to say, oh no, this is a woman's battle. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. I don't care how you color it. I don't care how you inject or you do otherwise. This is not a woman's fight because I can't fight for a transgender woman. I can't because she's not, to me, she's not a biological and natural woman. And here we go with the words that I am almost being forbidden to speak of. It's not going to happen. This is not about that because I don't relate to that fight. You see, you have to ask the woman to see if we relate to them. This is actually exploitation of of the left. This is exploitation of a made up fight or an injected fight because the left has run out of groups to fight for, as they have always been. They always run out of groups to use to say, let me help you. And they put these groups and these orders to say, here's what we're going to do for the blacks. Here's what we're going to do for the Hispanics. Here's what we're going to do for women. Here's what we're going to do for the minorities. Here's what we're going to do for the poor. Here's what they're going, and then and then they run away after they realize that the left has not helped them, just like a lot of the minorities are finally realizing, not because I'm happy that they're going to another party, no, but because they're realizing I need to make things happen for me because you know what, this life is not going to be it's not going to happen again. It's exploitation of a made up fight because the left has run out of groups, and it's creating groups to fight for as if they have they have the answer. Now they are creating a group to fight for, and that transgenderism is one of those groups, but they're not creating a whole new group. They are injecting them. If it's a transgender man, it's into the man, and if it's a woman, in the woman, at the cost of women's rights, at the cost of women's rights, civil rights, and other social justice rights that people have struggled to gain. This is not right. This is not right. Again, I'm not a racist. I'm a minority woman. I don't like to call myself of color, but you know what? I am of the brown color. I am of a Middle Eastern color. But at the same time, this is not right. I'm a woman. Listen to me. This is against nature. This is against what what biology is teaching us. Biology is telling us this cannot be done. This is crazy and not normal. As Sarah Huckabee is saying, you have two choices, going crazy or going normal. Okay, and this is not denying. This is not denying the gays and the lesbian community their rights. This is nothing like that. But and they know this is crazy, and you know this is crazy and not normal. This is not for the Republicans. This is not for the Christians, conservatives, but to all, this message is for all that scientifically are inclined. If you are scientifically inclined, remember the COVID situation, okay? Follow the science, follow the science, follow the science. Remember, follow the science. Let's follow the science. If you are scientifically inclined, if you say you follow science, then follow this. X chromosome and Y chromosome can never be changed. You are born biologically a woman, you will remain with the woman's chromosome. You are born a man, you will always carry those chromosomes. They cannot be changed. Don't argue with me about PMS. Don't argue with me about PMS. And I'm sorry that I'm going to get a little bit, not graphic, but a little more detail. And I know my community, speaking about things like this is taboo in the Middle Eastern community when we speak about stuff like this. And I know I have many people from the Middle East listening to us and listening to our program about this. But you know what? I'm going to talk about it, because if we're going to get graphic, if we're going to get deep, let's go get graphic into this situation and see how impossible this can be. We all, men and women, have uh, PMS, where we have mood changes, where we have levels of testosterone, and we have hormones, go up and down, and we have imbalances. But no man can give birth. It's ridiculous that I would even need to say that. But no man born a man can give birth, and no man can bleed, because there is a scientific purpose. Listen to me. There is a scientific purpose for menstruation, for bleeding, which is connected to something called ovulation. You cannot tell me that a man can have PMS. You have PMS. That is impossible. And if it is, it's to the extreme where, and again, I have to go back to the Bible, the first three chapters of the Bible, chapters 1, 2, and 3. And I wrote a book, by the way, called Dear Man. And my focus is on those three chapters, chapters 1, 2, and 3, how God created man all together, ALTOGETER, all together, meaning all in one. And when he separated them for, according to the purpose of the creation. One is to plant the seed, and one is to carry the seed, and the other one is to be planted with that seed and to be able to procreate and to birth a child. That's how God designed human beings, two genders, man and woman. A woman's body is designed to procreate. It has a uterus, a house for a child human to grow in. I'm going to read right now what is the menstrual cycle from a scientifically proven, and many of you that know, and we have Mayo Clinic here in Arizona, it's from the website of the mayoclinic.org under the title of What is Menstrual Cycle? Woman's Health. The menstrual cycle is the monthly series of changes a woman's body goes through in preparation for the possibility of pregnancy. Each month, one of the ovaries releases an egg, a process called ovulation. At the same time, hormonal changes prepare the uterus for pregnancy. If ovulation takes place and the egg isn't fertilized, the lining of the uterus sheds through the where. Okay? This is the menstrual period. Is this going to change? Is this going to politically, because it doesn't fit the narrative of a political entity or a political side? Is this going to change in the coming future? I'm so glad that I saved this article, and I'm going to go ahead and print it, because today Mayo Clinic is writing this. Is this going to be changed now to fit the political narrative, to say, oh, this is not right? Now that we have science telling us what a woman and a man is, or what procreation is, and how the two different bodies operate, can we now get another view, so that you don't accuse me of saying, oh, you're too Christian, you're talking about the Bible too much, oh, you're talking about God's creation, I don't believe in God? Okay, you don't believe in God. I just read to you from the scientific side, the Mayo Clinic. But you know what? Please humor me. We're going to go ahead and see a video This is North Carolina's Lieutenant Colonel Governor Mark Robinson speaking on the pulpit in a video, and we're going to go ahead and watch and we'll see what he has to say about that from the Christian or from the religious side of things.
Something else I'm not supposed to say. Ain't but two genders. Two genders. Ain't nothing but men and women. And I can already see WRL out there. They got they licking their pencils right now, trying to write fierce as they can. Get every word of this here. Get every word of this. You can go to the doctor and get cut up. You can go down to the dress shop and get made up. You can go down there and get drugged up. But at the end of the day, you were just a drugged up, dressed up, made up, cut up, man or woman. You ain't changed what God put in you, that DNA. You can't transcend God's creation. I don't care how hard you try. The transgender movement in this country, if there's a movement in this country that is demonic and that is full of the spirit of Antichrist, it is the transgender movement. It's time for grown-ups and time for Christians to start standing up and being unafraid to tell the truth. Come after me if you want to. I don't care. You want my head? Here it is right here. Come on, come get it. I don't care because it's time for us to stand up. Now, I'm not afraid to stand up and tell the truth about that issue. They're dragging our kids down into the pit of hell, trying to teach them that mess in our schools. Tell you like this, that ain't got no place at no school. 2 plus 2 don't equal transgender. It equals 4. You need to get back to teaching them how to read instead of teaching them how to go to hell. Yeah, I said it and I mean it.
And so, again, a lot of the videos that we're showing is just reflecting on many views that are out there all over the world. As a Christian, I would, of course, want to gain the attention of the transgender community and to speak with compassion and to speak with love. And this is just a viewpoint that I am giving you so that you can see that when you demand certain things, you are going to get the opposition coming and resistance. And this is the resistance that's going to appear. But if you want to fight your fight, and again, you are entitled, you are in America, and who am I to tell someone not to have the voice and not to stand up when I myself have gained so many opportunities in America to be able to do that. And so what I'm saying is, rather than join the forces or join a fight that has already existed this is the beginning of time. There's been gender conflicts, and that is what my book, by the way, is about. It's called Dear Man, Where is Our Friendship? Because I wrote a book showing how the genders have lost their friendship and they left it behind in paradise. And I'm not talking about the paradise that's current day Iraq. I'm talking about the paradise that was actually lifted up and was taken in the clouds. And so what I'm saying to you is this: have a fight of your own so that you are independent. Have a fight that you that is unique to you. Have a fight or start a movement that is completely you, characteristics with you. Because once again, I love you as a human being because my faith teaches that I love you. But I cannot join your fight, and it is not my fight. Your fight is not with me. Your fight is with society in general that is not accepting you. And so for you to inject, and I'm sorry on behalf of all of the governments that are injecting this fight into a woman or a man's path or fight is truly not the fight. This is not the fight. That's why you are finding resistance. That is why you are finding you are finding a lot of people standing against you, because a woman who was born a woman has emotions as well that are totally different than a man's. I know you go through this transition, but there is nothing that will transition you to feel or to act or to be, even though you may see yourself as a woman. And I don't want to go into the psychological phase of you being a woman or transitioning into a woman. That is not my problem, and that is not my business. And it's not my business to judge, and I will never judge anyone for that. But I can tell you one thing: when you start coming into my path and you start telling me our fight right now is this and not that, um, I'm sorry, that is not my fight. My fight is very clear as a woman. My fight is very, very visible. My fight is before me. And I've been fighting this for centuries. And all of us women have been fighting this for centuries, because there is a gender conflict that is very obvious. And we've been not only fighting, but we have been gaining. We have been gaining so much through that. So, and this is why when we see politics taking over the society to say, this is what you're going to believe in right now. I'm sorry. You're not going to make me believe something that is impossible. And you cannot speak with both sides of your mouth. And I'm speaking to the administration, and I'm speaking to the politicians, and I'm speaking to the society that wants to inject or throw down our put to this pill that we have to swallow when we're not happy with it. This is not right. And so it's not just politics. I'm seeing another dagger to the biological, again, the words that are taboo right now, biological or natural woman. Another dagger that we're seeing that was hit on the back of women is Hershey's Company, of all people, my favorite company. Chocolate, you all. Chocolate. Hershey's Company has chosen also a transgender woman to represent them on this day of the International Day for Women. This is one of the worst insults to women that have worked hard again and battled and have come so far. And Hershey's is saying that a transgender is actually the best person to represent me as a woman and my challenges. I don't understand. I don't understand. And here's a statement from the CEO. We value togetherness and recognize the strength created by diversity. A Hershey spokesperson told Bloomberg, over the past 3 years, our Women's History Month programming has been an inclusive celebration of women and their impact. We appreciate the countless people and meaningful partnership behind these efforts. Once again, diversity. You see how they are including or injecting words that used to mean something totally different. Okay, diversity. Diversity of what? Diversity. Who's against I mean, I don't understand. My mind is boggled how they are redefining terms. And that's why I'm saying whatever you're seeing right now on online, between the difference, like the article I just shared with you with Mayo Clinic, print it for God's sake, because it's not going to age well for those people that are just to see kind of history, what history used to say about women and what they are saying right now. So I don't understand how we can do this. And so it's amazing to me that they're using all of that to just be able to inject or to justify the right to call a transgender woman a woman, or a transgender man a man. And so another dagger in this, that will be dagger number 3. Dagger number 3 is coming from the bodybuilding industry. And I have an article that I'm going to read from right now. It says USA powerlifting to allow trans athlete to compete with women after losing suit. And if we can, I don't know if I'm on my, there she is. And leave that picture up if you don't mind, Fred. USA Powerlifting must allow transgender athletes to compete in the women's division after transgender lifter J.C. Cooper won her discrimination case against the organization. The federation was mandated to cease and desist from all unfair discriminatory practice related to sexual orientation and gender identity and reverse its former policy of barring transgender athletes with 2 weeks, according to the ruling obtained by Fox News. And this is from a article that was written in the New York Post. Now, this you can come back to me, Fred. This filing actually was it was filed in 2021 against the USA Powerlifting in state court. And this is what she says. This is Cooper, J.C. Cooper. I was fed up with the way that I was being treated. I was fed up with the way that my community was being treated, and enough was enough. Cooper told the outlet after winning the case. And I don't blame her. Again, I'm not discounting how frustrated she was. I don't doubt whatsoever that when you are transitioning and when you are told that you're a woman, and this is the medical industry as well, shame on you. Shame on you for setting people up for failure. You know, COVID had a scientific, and you know what? I was going to go into a whole slew, and I hope, Fred, you can hear me. I don't think we're going to be able to continue after this segment. We're going to I'll tell you when we finish the segment, because I don't think I can go on to the other two subjects that we had, which was COVID and, of course, the January 6th Tucker Carlson videos that were released. So let me talk to this because this is a very important subject. Shame on the medical society and shame on the medical industry. And I respect the medical society so much so because I had seen miracles done. And when people are praying for miracles, I have seen with my own eyes what the medical society or medical health industry did for my husband, who 3 times the doctors walked into his hospital room to tell him that he died. And it was the miraculous talent of the medical industry or the medical field and the health field that saved my husband's life. So I have so much respect for doctors. I have so much respect, but it is those people that are researching and profiting from this narrative that when you transition a child, a woman, a man to another gender, you are the one narrating. You are the one that's falsifying and saying you are now a woman, because that will never happen. Because science will never work against God. Science was made or designed in a way so that it would help the creation heal and to be able to educate itself. That's why God created the natural remedies that are out there, so that all of the drugs that the pharma companies are selling and they are benefiting from, financial benefits from, are all made from natural remedies or natural plants that God created on this earth to be able to put together and to be made into medicine that we are taking. But it is the medical society, just like with what governments do, they abuse their power, they abuse their sense of authority, so that they can start controlling people. And that's what pharma is doing. You've got so many diseases now that is prevalent to our society right now that are so dependent on things like insulin, like blood pressure, like cancer, like so many sicknesses and diseases and so the pharma company right now, pharmacies and pharma in general, the organizations are exploiting humanity. And one of the things that you are exploiting is telling women like, I want to get her name right. I don't want to just, her name is J.C. Cooper, like women that I could imagine that she says, now that you're a woman, so where is J.C. supposed to go? She's going to go to the women's weightlifting program. Why? Because she's being told by doctors, now you're a woman, even though she still has the abilities and the DNA and the strength of a man. So where's she going to go? So do I blame the transgender community? No, not at all. But if the doctors would say, yes, you feel more comfortable looking like a woman, that's fine. But please understand, you will never be a woman, or telling a man you will never be a woman that wants to transition to be a man. You'll never be really technically a man. Biologically, scientifically, you can never be a man or a woman. And that is that is your fault, because you're making too much money from transitioning. Just like we were making so much money saying, no, a baby up until a few certain weeks is just an embryo. You kept calling it a name. You kept giving it a title, embryo. And yet we saw in how many different videos that were taken undercover that you were selling the organs of this embryo, selling these parts of the embryo so that you could profit from this human that was cut up apart so that you can heal what to use on humans, so you can use it on humans and to be able to profit personally. And so it is truly a shame where we are, and we need to come back to order. And this is why I started my program by saying we don't worship a God of chaos, and we are in chaos right now. And so if we are in chaos, we are in hell. Because when there is no organization, that's why our country is called the United States of America, because we are united. If we are divided, then we are not a country. And so we've got, again, and that is the subject where we are talking about infiltration and manipulation, because we've got people that know as using our freedom, using the Constitution that they've gained, infiltrating our country, using it against us, saying, you can't stop me from saying this. You can't stop me from doing that. You can't stop me from, because it's discrimination. It's against my constitutional right. The constitutional right is being abused. Just like the politicians whom we voted for to go to Washington to represent us, they're no longer representing us. Excuse me. This is why you have all human beings, all humanity, all people on the left or on the right, disgusted with politics. This is why you have so many people not wanting to come into service or not wanting to serve anymore because of the attacks on both sides. This is why you have so many kids now questioning, is it really necessary for us to vote? The very foundation and basic rights that our founders fought for today are being questioned to see if they are actually working. If our voice no longer works, then what are we going to do? We are going to stay silent. But I believe that the activism of what went on, and this was a subject that we would have seen, that we no longer believe in the political system. We are, with COVID, we stopped believing in the medical system. And of course, we used to go to the movies to see Hollywood actors, our favorite actors, act a movie and say, my favorite actor. We see that they have become nothing more than the political advocates for one side or the other. And when they're great multi-million-dollar platforms, I can't win. So if my government is against me, the movies that used to entertain me are against me. I can't watch them because right now I'm having to choose. Do I go see the next movie by a political advocate that's on the screen? Do I give him my money? Do I give him more money? Do I give him more of my money to become more rich to stand against me? And of course, do I? And do you know that we were scared? How many people were scared to death to go to the hospital when COVID-19, during those 3 years of COVID-19? So you've got 3 areas, and of course, not to mention the mainstream media. So you've got 4 areas that is in chaos. Why? Because they are redefining the basic tenets of what they stand for. Politics, mainstream media, Hollywood, and the health industry. Can you believe it? The 4 things that humanity needs. Talk about communism. Talk about socialism. Talk about oppression. Talk about Saddam Hussein and the Ba'ath regime. Really? And you are laughing at me? For those of you that were laughing at me when I was telling you, Iraq, Comparing Iraq to America? Yes, it will happen because I left Iraq, but Iraq followed me. Why? Because because we are not using the laws that are on the books, and that for some reason, with respect to all of my fellow Americans on the left, on the right, wherever you are, in the middle, in between, how is it that we're not in an uproar right now? How is it that we are seeing these discrepancies in these four industries that I just mentioned, and we're not in an uproar? Why are we not all, as Democrats, as Republicans, as independents, as libertarians, as no one, as atheists, as Christians, as whatever it is you want to call yourself, black, white, brown, yellow, red, whatever color we are? How are we not coming together to cry up and say, listen, my fellow Democrat, this is wrong. My Republican friend, this is wrong. I voted for President Trump, but I had no problem. I had no problem criticizing him when me as a Christian, when he said, I'm going to go visit a few years ago to the three countries of where the original, the biggest three biggest religions were started in the Middle East. He went to Saudi Arabia for Islam. He went to Israel for the Jewish faith. But where did he go? Do you guys remember? You might not remember. You know why? Because it might not have hit you in the heart like it did me, or those of us that came from the Middle East that suffered through ISIS and other persecutions and genocides, Christian genocides. Do you know where President Trump went to speak to the representative of the Christians? He turned right back around and went to Europe and sought Pope Francis at the Vatican in Rome. Rome has not had a persecutor in how many centuries? Rome has not been persecuted. Rome has been thriving. It is the Christians in the Middle East that have been facing the fire, face on, one, the demonic powers to come against them. That is an enemy of all humanity, that have been attacking, and we have been banished from one. My ancestors, my grandmother and my grandfathers were originally born in Turkey. That doesn't mean I wasn't from Iraq. It's just that Mesopotamia, or the empire, the Assyrian Empire, encompassed 4 countries. And so when other countries came and took over Assyria, the Assyrian Empire, wherever region we happen to be in, for example, my ancestors were from Turkey. So Assyria in Turkey became Turkey, but it was still Assyria. It was the empire part of previously Assyrian Empire, and still is, we consider it. So when we were banished during the 1915 genocide, Christian genocide, a lot of you know it as the Armenian genocide, we had to go to many different countries. My grandparents came to Iraq. My grandfather's brother went to Russia. There's a whole community in Russia, in Georgia, in Armenia, that actually escaped the genocide as well. So why would President Trump go to the Vatican to speak to a representative? Maybe because, I'm sure, because of the peace and the serenity and the organization and the greatness of Vatican, which the Pope is not my Pope. I have my own Pope, but I highly respect whatever Pope is in Vatican at any given time. I respect that because they've sacrificed their life for the greater man. But nevertheless, I mean, if you are going to visit the Middle East and all of the respective religions that were created in the Middle East, you should have gone to Middle East. Maybe Iraq or Turkey or Syria or whatever was not safe enough for the president of the United States to go there. Maybe you could have invited them to one of the other Middle Eastern countries that would have loved to host the president. Maybe in Israel, maybe in Jordan, maybe in Saudi Arabia, somewhere where we could have felt like the president himself was coming to see how, because a lot of the bishops were killed. Many Christians were murdered, were beheaded, lost their lives. That's where the president, I didn't have a problem. I didn't have a problem criticizing President Trump. And the only reason I'm telling this story is because Republican does not identify who I am as a Christian, as a human being. Republican is where it's a political party where I give them my voice because they are the closest to my value system. They don't dictate who I am. The Democrat Party does not dictate who you are. When you're independent, you're basically saying, and maybe a lot, and I've heard a lot of people saying, we're gonna remain independent. We're gonna switch to being independent. Or some people who's in their state, they can be conservatives, have changed their affiliation to conservatives. But you do not. Politics does not dictate to me. Politics does not tell me who I am or where I come from. Politics doesn't tell me if I'm a biological woman or a natural woman. Politics doesn't tell me to speak or not. Yes, in another lifetime, under an oppressive government, it did, or it told me to actually, it silenced me. Not only did it tell me not to say what not to say, it silenced me completely. It silenced me completely to say, don't say anything. When we need to speak, we'll tell you. This is what you say. Like Saddam Hussein used to go into when the world was saying, oh, Saddam Hussein is oppressing his population. You know what they used to do? They used to go to gunpoint and knock on people's door and say, you know what? Get out and go out in the street and start screaming that you love Saddam Hussein. That's what they were doing. That's what they were doing. And so this is why I'm saying that it is very important that we understand where we're come from, who we are, and it's not easy for politics all of a sudden to tell me you can't speak the thoughts in my mind, or speak the things that are in our heart, or stop relating as a woman to things that have gone in history, and all of a sudden a man that I've been, by the way, it's not that I'm fighting man, but there's been this gender conflict. If just in case politicians in White House or you doctors out there, there is a gender conflict that's been going on for the longest time, and these transgender women and men don't relate to. They don't. This is not one of those things, because a transgender woman is not going to have the challenges of me as a woman. When I went to get a job, they gave it to the man and not me. They're going to be challenged as a transgender human being, one that has transitioned from this to that. So if they discriminate against that transgender woman, it's not because she's a woman. They're going to discriminate against that person because they're transgender. And this is why I say, create a fight for yourself that fits your narrative, that fits your category, that fits who you are and fits your fight. If it's worthy to you, if it's that important to you, say, you know what? Tell the doctors, tell the politicians, you are not going to use me. You are not going to exploit who I am to inject me into an area or a group that does not resonate with me or does not accept me. I can't fight the fight of someone that has, in America, who has ancestors that were slaves, black people in this country whose ancestors were slaves. But I sure can relate to them to say, I understand because I come from an oppressive background, but I can never stand with them, even though civil rights is not just for one color, it's for all. But at the same time, I cannot overstep, as that's why it's causing so much friction right now in the country, where we have this life matter and that life matter, all lives matter. But we have a fight. We each have a fight that we are, for example, the Assyrian community. I can tell you one of the biggest fights, the Assyrians. Do you know what our fight is? Perseverance, survival, our bloodline. Unless we are able to have a continuation of our bloodline, Assyrians not having a country, not being recognized, being abandoned, surviving in obscurity or fighting in obscurity, we will stop existing. So we have a fight that no one in this world understands or maybe can relate to, because we are at the brink of extinction. That's why we tell our children we have to marry within the community, not because we are discriminative, not because we're discriminating against any color, creed, or religion, or we are trying to preserve our identity. And so there is a purpose and a reason for transgenderism that needs to be uplifted. You need to build your own platform, is what I'm saying. Build your platform that you can all come together and you can fight. And no one's going to interrupt you, okay? And it's going to be something that you can fight successfully, I think, more productively for the most part. But you know what? You don't have to be faced with someone that doesn't believe in your transgender movement or transgender abilities to fight for it. And this is why, again, I think all these things that we were talking about today is very important that we needed to get out there because we cannot be silenced again, just like we were censored or silenced with COVID and with other things. You cannot speak this and speak that. I mean, things like when we were talking about the F word back with the 2020 election, a lot of people would think, oh, that's a cuss word, you're cursing F word. No, it was the word that was not allowed to say, which was fraud. I mean, since when does America not allow certain words to be spoken? I thought America was the land where you came to be free. I thought America was the land where you came to open your eyes, your heart, and your mouth, and you're able to speak, of course, with respect. And of course, I believe in the right. You don't abuse the powers and the abilities and the privileges that God has given you here and you've gained here in America. But at the same time, don't insult me. Don't insult my intelligence. Don't insult me by sitting in a position of power and think that I am supposed to not speak because then I will call you Saddam Hussein. I will compare you to Iraq. I will compare you to domination. I will compare you to communists and to socialists because we need to remain America. America is a beacon of hope. America is the light of the world. America is the perfect that any government can ever come close to. And if America ceases to exist, where will we go? I mean, I ask that question all the time because I came from somewhere and I had America to go to. But think about it. You as Americans who are third, fourth generation, however far back, and you are privileged to go back to, where would you go? Who's going to take you? Don't forget, America is as loved as America is, it's also hated in the world. And that's why it's important that we open our eyes, but don't insult us. Don't insult our intelligence. And this is not to say I'm an expert in this and that, but I am a human being. I have experiences. I'm sitting before you speaking, and I would think intelligently enough so that you can understand that I am not just going on and on about things. But, we're frustrated as citizens, as human beings, as women today. Yesterday was International Women's Day. Rather than celebrate it, I couldn't believe what I was watching. And everyone I told, everywhere I turned, there was a transgender woman or a transgender this and a transgender. And again, this is making enemies. This is creating animosity towards one another. I'm not against transgenderism. I'm not, as a Christian, I don't agree with you. I will tell you that to your face. I will tell you that everywhere. But I don't agree with that lifestyle. But at the same time, I am no one to judge you, as you are not anyone to judge me. So don't tell me I have to do something, because when you tell me I have to do something, then that narrative changes to, okay, so this is force, and so where is that going to go? It's gonna lead to division. It's gonna lead to burning bridges. It's not going to lead to civil discourse. And so before we go, I was saying that I don't have time. I'm looking at my clock to go into the many subjects. I think this was a good enough subject that I think we needed to talk about. I want to talk to you about upcoming program that's coming up next week on the 16th. If we can put that flyer up, Fred. We have a very important guest that's coming in, of course. If you can join us next week, March 16th at 9 p.m., same time, for a major discussion with Mr. Murad Ismail. He's a co-founder and president of Sinjar Academy and former executive of Yezda. He is actually like I said, a founder. He is from Sinjar. He's a Yazidi. He finished his school in Iraq and Kurdistan and holds 2 masters in environment engineering. I don't want to go too much into his biography, but a wonderful man that will be with us talking about if you remember, not only the Christian Assyrians or the Chaldeans and the Shabaks and the Yazidis, which a lot of people had not heard of before, were some of the biggest victims of ISIS, and they're still suffering. Many of their women were actually held captive and were enslaved. And one of the very famous um, women of from the Yazidi community is, of course, Nadia Al Murad. So she, wonderful woman. She just received the Nobel Peace Prize a couple of years ago for her heroic advocacy. She escaped from the hands, brutal and evil hands of ISIS. She was a sex slave, and she's married now very happily, and continues to advocate for the Yazidi community. And March 30th, which is not following 16th, but we're going to have a break between the two. But join us for this beautiful queen, for this beautiful woman that I have been following for years, Asra Q Nomani. She has written a book that is, oh my God, Woke Army, the Red Green Alliance that is destroying America's freedom. She's an American journalist, author, and former Georgetown University professor born in India, which she says it is not an exaggeration to say that the future of America depends on our winning this war against the woke army. She's saying that. And so this is why it's very important that we had her on the program. And when I sent her a message, she immediately responded. I want to thank her. She has thousands upon thousands upon thousands of followers, and she is on all kinds of networks, Fox News, you name it. And she is a very famous woman that has advocated for many women causes, many social issues, religious issues, and she was born in India. So you can imagine the kind of things that this woman has gone through, agreed to be on our program, which is an honor beyond anything that I can express. So I would appreciate it if you can join us during those times with Asra Nomani on the 30th, and then of course Mr. Murad Ismail from the Yazidi community on the 16th. And with that, thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to like our page. Don't forget to share, invite your friends, let your friends know to tune in, and share this program with those that were not able to come in today. I want to thank you for your dedication, for your viewership, and for your friendship. We love you, and until the next time, Shlama. America Fest. So we are very honored to be here. We're going to be covering it. It's a summit that's going to take place for the next 4 days.